WSET Diploma. D5, Fortified Wines, Chapter 5, Vin du Natural. The term Vin du Natural, VDN, describes a category of French wines that are made by halting fermentation by the addition of spirit to create a sweet fortified wine. There are a number of protected denominations of origin, PDO, for these wines, spread throughout Roussillon, Languedoc, and the southern Rhône, with the great majority of production coming from Roussillon. 5.1. The growing environment and grape growing. Climate. The general climate in all the VDN PDOs is Mediterranean. Roussillon is the warmest and driest region and is influenced by the Tramontane wind, all of which leads to greater transpiration from the grapes during the end of ripening and hence a greater concentration of sugar. This can be beneficial, meaning less spirit is needed to fortify a wine to a certain level of alcohol while retaining a certain level of residual sugar, i.e., a grape with a higher level of sugar can ferment for longer, producing more alcohol before reaching the desired level of residual sugar for the final wine. However, it also reduces juice yield. Grape varieties. The majority of VDNs are produced from Muscat or Grenache. Muscat, Blanc à Petit Grain. This variety has smaller grapes than Muscat of Alexandria and is considered to have a greater intensity of aroma and flavor. It is tolerant of dry weather and hence suited to Mediterranean climates in which rain during the growing season is scarce. It is susceptible to powdery mildew, botrytis bunch rot, and mites. Muscat of Alexandria. This Muscat variety has bigger grapes than Muscat Blanc and achieves higher sugar levels. Similar to Muscat Blanc, it is tolerant of dry weather, but is susceptible to powdery mildew and botrytis bunch rot. Plantings are in decline, as it is often thought to produce wines that are less refined than those from Muscat Blanc. Grenache. In this section, called Grenache Noir, to avoid confusion with Grenache Blanc and Grenache Gris, Grenache Noir is a late ripening variety with good drought resistance, making it suitable to Mediterranean climates. It produces high yields, but can be relatively pale in color unless these are controlled. It accumulates sugar quickly and is therefore suitable for production of fortified wines. It is susceptible to calor at fruit set and downy mildew, phomopsis, and botrytis bunch rot, all of which can reduce yields. Grenache Blanc, Macabeo, the same as Macabeo in Spain, and Grenache Gris may also be part of the blend for VDNs in Roussillon. Vineyard management. The climates for growing grapes for VDNs are generally warm, and particularly for unaged styles of Muscat, a shady canopy is required to reduce the chances of sunburn and excessive grape shriveling. Yields for all the appellations are small. The maximum is generally 30 hectoliters per hectare. By law, grapes must be picked with a minimum of 14.8% ABV potential alcohol. Sometimes the grapes are picked slightly riper, but overall, producers generally want to retain as much acidity as possible to balance the residual sugar in these wines. Grapes tend to be hand harvested, and there may be several passes through the vineyard depending on the ripeness of the crop. Late harvest or botryticized characters are not desired. 5.2. Winemaking. VDNs are produced by adding grape spirit to stop fermentation early to give a sweet fortified wine. The minimum concentration of residual sugar depends on the individual appellation, but ranges from 100 grams per liter to 125 grams per liter for Muscat-based wines and 45 grams per liter for Grenache-based wines, though in practice many Grenache-based wines are around 100 grams per liter residual sugar. Neutral spirit of 95 to 96% ABV is used so that the character of the spirit does not compete with the character of the base wine and/or maturation. Spirit is added when the fermentation reaches 5 to 8% ABV to make wines of 15 to 18% ABV. Only approximately 5 to 10% of the volume of the wine is made up of the fortifying spirit. which is another reason why VDNs do not have a particularly spirity character. For VDNs made from white grape varieties, the grapes are typically pressed and the must fermented off the skins. A period of skin contact, e.g. 6 to 24 hours, prior to fermentation may be used to extract greater aroma from the skins of the grapes. The winemaker may choose to blend pressed juice with the free-run juice for extra body and texture, or keep them separate as desired. For unaged VDNs, the must may be chilled and stored for a period of months and then fermented based on demand, to ensure the wines produced are as fresh as possible. For this style, the must and wine will also be protected from oxygen through the winemaking process, again to retain fresh primary aromas. For VDNs made from black grape varieties, it is typical for the must to be fermented and fortified while in contact with the grape skins. The addition of the fortifying alcohol increases the extraction of color, flavor, and tannins, all of which are important for wines that are to undergo extensive aging. Maceration on the skins can continue for a couple of weeks past the fortification date to maximize extraction. Cap management techniques such as pumping over and punching down are also used to maximize extraction. For both red and white wines, stainless steel vessels are used for fermentation to allow for easy temperature control. White wines tend to be fermented cool at around 15 degrees Celsius, 59 degrees Fahrenheit, to enhance the production of fruity ester aromas. Red wines tend to be fermented at around 28 degrees Celsius, 82 degrees Fahrenheit, to promote extraction but retain fruity aromas. Maturation. As with other styles of fortified wines, the decisions made during the maturation process have a significant impact on the style of the wines. VDNs may either be released relatively young or undergo oxidative maturation. Labeling terms in each of the appellations are used to signify the style of wine produced. Youthful, unaged wines. These wines will be released for sale a few months after fermentation. The wines will typically be stored in closed stainless steel vessels at cool, constant temperatures, protected from oxygen, for example, by blanketing with inert gas. These wines display the primary aromas and flavors of the grape variety or varieties from which they are made. Muscat-based wines will display floral and grapey aromas and potentially other aromas such as peach, pear, and honey. Grenache-based wines often show aromas of blackberries, raspberry, and plums. Oxidatively aged wines. These wines can be matured in a variety of vessels for a period of over several years. Some of the wines may be kept in old oak barrels. The barrels are typically not topped up during the maturation, which encourages oxidation. Some styles of these wines may be aged in glass demijohns, also called bonbons, that are not quite full, unstoppered, and left outside in the sun to speed up the aging process. The wines from demijohns may be directly bottled for sale, be transferred and matured further in barrels, or be used as a blending component with oxidatively aged wines from barrel. 5.3. VDN appellations and wine styles. Rhone. There are two VDN appellations in the Rhone: Muscat des Baumes de Venise and Vendu Naturel Rasteau. The vines of Muscat des Baumes de Venise are planted on terraces on the southeast-facing slopes of the Dentelle des Monts Mirel, which provides shelter from the mistral and aids ripening. The vast majority of production is white VDN made from Muscat Blanc à Petit Grain, Muscat à Petit Grain Rouge, a dark-skinned mutation, brown muscat in Australia, is allowed for the production of red and rosé VDNs. These wines are always made in an unaged style. White Muscat des Baumes de Venise is generally medium-bodied with medium acidity and low alcohol for a fortified wine around 15% ABV. Due to protective winemaking, the wines usually show primary aromas and flavors including blossom, grape, peach, and honey. Significant producers include Domaine des Bernardines. Vendu Natural Rasteau can either be red rosé, made by Saunier method and fortified off the skins, or white, and can be made in unaged or oxidative styles. In practice, only a tiny proportion of white is made, and most of the production is red. The red wines must be made with a minimum of 75% Grenache Noir. Grenache Gris and Grenache Blanc, as well as a number of other southern Rhone varieties, can also be blended in. The appellation's location on gentle south-facing slopes, providing maximum exposure to sunlight and some protection from the cool mistral, means that grapes easily become very ripe, suitable for the production of sweet fortified wines with juicy, almost jammy fruit flavors. Unaged wines can show notes of cherries and plums, with oxidative styles showing more dried fruit and nutty hints. Levels of alcohol are generally low to medium, with 16 to 18% alcohol by volume being typical. Languedoc. There are two main VDN appellations in the Languedoc. All of the wines must be made from Muscat Blanc à Petit Grain and made in an unaged style with subtle differences according to the location of the appellation. For example, the largest appellation, Muscat de Frontignan, is based southwest of Montpellier at low altitude and is hence relatively warm. It produces wines with a fuller body than many of the other appellations and displays aromas of tropical fruits. By comparison, Muscat de Saint-Jean-de-Minervois is located in the northeast corner of Minervois at 250 to 300 meters in elevation, and the climate is more continental. The cooler climate gives wines with higher acidity, lighter body, and more stone fruit and floral aromas. Roussillon. VDN wines make up a tiny proportion of production in the Rhone and Languedoc, but play a much more significant role in Roussillon. VDNs represent 30% of all Roussillon PDO and PGI wine production by volume. The wines of each appellation are made in a range of styles. Grenat or Remage denotes unaged styles of red wines. Grenat is the term used in Maury and Remage in Banyuls. Blanc denotes unaged styles of white wines. Toulet, traditional, denotes a red wine that has been matured oxidatively. Toulet is the term used in Maury and Rivesaltes, traditional in Banyuls. Ambre denotes a white wine that has been matured oxidatively. Hors d'âge denotes a wine that has been matured oxidatively for a longer period than Toulet or Ambre wines. The wines can be red or white. Rancio denotes a wine with rancio character. The wines can be red or white. The Grand Roussillon AOC covers a wide yet specifically delineated area for VDNs produced outside the 5 leading AOCs described below, but can include declassified wines from those AOCs. Banyuls AOC. This appellation is located at the eastern end of the Pyrenees, bordered by the Mediterranean to the east and Spain to the south. The red wines must be made of a minimum of 50% Grenache Noir, but can also include Grenache Blanc and Grenache Gris. The vineyards are planted on steep terraced schist slopes. A small amount of white VDN is also made. Significant producers include Domaine Vial Magnieres. Banyuls Grand Cru AOC. This appellation covers the same area as Banyuls, but the wines can only be red, must be made of a minimum 75% Grenache Noir, and must be matured for a minimum of 30 months. Wines that have been aged longer may qualify to be labeled as hors d'âge or rancio. Maury AOC. This appellation is located in the north of Roussillon. The vines are planted at 100 to 400 meters in the foothills of the Pyrenees on dark-colored schist soils that store heat from the day and release it at night, aiding ripening. The red VDNs must be made from a minimum of 75% Grenache Noir. A small amount of white is also made, usually in an unaged style. Dry, unfortified wines can also be made in the same area, but these must be labeled as Mauri Sec, AOC. Muscat de Rivesaltes, AOC. This is by far the largest appellation in Roussillon in terms of production. It is often made from a blend of Muscat Blanc à Petit Grand and Muscat of Alexandria, and only made in an unaged style. Rivesaltes, AOC. This appellation in the north of Roussillon, close to the Mediterranean coast, encompasses a range of VDN styles. Both red and white VDNs are made in Grenache, Toulet, Ambre, Hors d'Age, and Rancio style. The whites can only be made with a maximum 20% Muscat varieties, with the balance coming from Grenache Blanc, Grenache Gris, Macabeo, and Malvoisie. The reds are mainly made from Grenache Noir. Significant producers include Domaine Cazes. End of Chapter 5. Apologies for the terrible French pronunciations.